Hey, it's New Thought Talk. I'm your host, Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in Fresno, California. Fresno, the heart of the Central Valley, and the Central Valley, the heart of the great state of California. A lot of energy, a lot of creativity, and a lot of heart going on here in the area, and has been for a long time. Glad you're with us today. Hope you're experiencing a lot of heart where you're at. I hope you claimed your good for this day, because this day was gifted to you. Just as the energy of this thing called life that expresses as you by expressing through you has gifted you in this life expression, and our gift back to that which has gifted us first is to live our life, to live it at a higher, greater degree of livingness, as Thomas Trord would say, and basically do all that we can do to express the goodness that we have to express, that is our individualized aspect, a part of consciousness, which we know of as divine principle, first cause, God, however you want to relate to it. And that brings me to what I want to talk about today. How do you relate to it? And the reason why I'm bringing that up, people in New Thought, sometimes we get kind of full of ourselves, don't we? I mean, we talk about this oneness and this unity, and that, we're all just an individualized expression of the divine, of God. So ask yourself, what does that mean? If you are an expression, an individualized expression of the divine, of God, what does that mean to you? How do you understand your relationship with that which we call the one, the oneness, the cosmic consciousness, source, okay? How do you experience your relationship with the divine? How does that play into your personal belief system? How does that demonstrate in your imagination your understanding of exactly what that means? When we say there's one life, that life is God, and then we follow it up with that life is my life now, what does that mean? When we talk about the unity, the oneness, when we talk about how, as Trord used to say, that, to the degree that we are in the relative, to that degree we're not in the absolute. What is that absolute? How do we relate to that in our life? And it's a simple but profound, deep, and oftentimes hard to answer question. Sometimes we think we got a handle on it. Sometimes we feel like we're all alone. I was reading in one of the books I'm currently reading. It's a New Thought book, and they were talking about Holmes in the days of Holmes. This concept, idea of this rugged individualism that supposedly he taught, and that with that understanding we could go out through using the principles of science of mind and spirit, and create the world that we want to live in. But I don't know that that's what Holmes really taught. I don't think Holmes taught a rugged individualism. I think Holmes taught a rugged, inclusive oneness, universalism, because we don't go out and overcome the world. We're not responsible in and of ourselves for overcoming the world. We don't face the world by ourselves, that we somehow go within or make a declaration through our affirmative treatment that through that we overcome whatever life may bring at us. What we do is we accept the truth that we have a bigger God than whatever life can bring. And that becomes our premise, our foundation. And that bigger God is not distant from us. That bigger God is available to us on a very intimate basis and level. But we have to open ourselves up to it. It's done unto us as we believe, and we got to get to that point of belief. I'm going to go back. I spend time in now they've been republished, the Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life home study courses, and they were actually sent out, in each course, each lesson was sent out individually, and you got these nice binders, and they went in there, and it's really neat. And then they were published like this, and then they fell away, and now they're recently, I say recently, within the last several years, they've been republished. I think they're called the Home Study Courses or something like that. They're available. You can get them. There are a total of 48 lessons that Dr. Holmes put together, probably with some help, but he was the ultimate mind behind it, if you will, of what he felt that someone that didn't have access to a center or a church back in the day, in order to become a practitioner in science of mind and spirit, to put these principles into practice in their life and possibly in the lives of others as a practitioner. Now, I'm not talking necessarily about a licensed or authorized practitioner, but I'm talking about someone that utilized these principles. And if you haven't gone through them, I don't care how long you've been in religious science, I highly recommend that you pick them up and go through them. Just like you go through, or I hope you go through, the textbook every year and refresh, remind, and renew your understanding of what Holmes taught. But if you really want to get in depth, you really want to drill down, this is the way to do it. And each lesson opened up with a letter from Dr. Holmes to the student that came with that particular lesson. Now, this lesson that I'm going to reference was lesson number 5, entitled Spirit, Its Meaning, Action, and Use. And I'm not going to go through and read the lesson, but I want to go through and read Dr. Holmes's introductory level of what he felt that the student needed to get out of this lesson. And he says here, one of the principal things you will learn in this lesson is that you are not concentrating any power when you use the science of mind, but rather through belief and faith and communion with the Spirit in you and around you. You are using a power that is already centered everywhere, okay? You're using a power. You're not using yourself. You're not trying to figure out something, a way to overcome, or how to get by, get over around yourself. You are using a power. He says, you're using a power that is already centered everywhere. You do not have to take it, with a capital I, from one place to another. What you are learning is that you use this power at the very center of your own being, for this is the only place that you meet the divine presence or use the universal principle, and it is always a combination of these two fundamental realities with which you are dealing. Divine presence, universal principles. And with these, Holmes felt that you could pretty much face down anything that life could bring at you. I don't know that I'd call that rugged individualism. I'd call that realizing the truth of what we are. And I think, and this is just my personal opinion, I can't point to anything in particular, but I think that we've kind of gotten away from that, or some of us have anyway. We look to various things, but as we look to those various things, we still make it kind of a me-centric perspective. And we don't live in a me-centric universe. We live in a universal, divine consciousness, presence, source that we call God-centric creation. And our role in that is to express the energy, this thing called life that is our life right here, right now, in a higher, greater degree of livingness. In order to do that, We have to be able to depend on our source. In order to do that, we have to know the truth of who and what we are and live in the light of that truth, the power of that truth, the presence of that truth, and to experience the demonstration that we will see because we have made that our understanding. We have made that our belief, and we hold that truth. As Troward would say, we move into our understanding and expression of the absolute. Speaking of the absolute, it's absolutely time for our first commercial break. I'll see you when we come back.
When you need to get fit, contact Gary Torres, IFBB Pro. Email GaryTorres5336@yahoo.com.
Hey, I'm Chris DeVold. Tune in every Friday night on CentralValleyTalk.com when I bring you Sex, Drugs, Chris DeVold, where I'll give you 3 guesses on what we talk about. And I also vow to bring you 1 live local music act a week. So tune in every week because you never know what kind of music you're going to hear right here on CentralValleyTalk.com.
The Space Colony Journals are an epic tale of a family's struggle to survive. Meet the courageous women and dangerous men who dare to carve a home on the alien world of Vensug. Get your copy today. Available on Amazon and Gale Daly's FineArt.com.
You enter this door with expired tags. Beyond is another dimension, a dimension of regulations, a dimension of long waits. You have reached the registration zone. What looks like an ordinary shop is actually Mitchell Smog, located in the heart of the Tower District, a few minutes from the DMV. Mitchell Smog offers your vehicle a STAR-certified smog inspection. So remember Mitchell Smog when you need to pass through the registration zone.
Contact Sarah Hernandez of June and Matte Photography to schedule your portrait, engagement, wedding, or next family photo session. But that's not all. Sarah is also your personal brandographer, helping you ditch the stock photos and get images that sell. Call 559-412-3721. Visit juneandmattephoto.com and follow Sarah on Instagram and Facebook.
Hello everyone, my name is Miss G. I offer fun and affordable promotion and advertisement on my talk show. It is called Fresno Vibes. We talk, we play awesome music. I also feature a bunch of different bartenders from different places. I like to have restaurants. I like to have any event, any kind of fun stuff. Contact me at rmgmissg@gmail.com and we will have so much fun and we will promote your business, promote your event right here on my show. So contact me. We'll have fun. Thank you.
Give your child the tools to succeed. The Yergubian Academic Center offers one-on-one and group educational lessons by appointment. Over 90% of our students show significant improvement in their academics in just 3 months. Students of the Yergubian Academic Center have gone on to UCLA, UC San Diego, Yale, Stanford, and many more prestigious universities. Schedule a tutoring session today. Call 559-437-3973.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center. Moving forward, we're in Lesson 5 of the home study courses in whatever iteration that you may have them available to you. If you do, and if you don't, I highly recommend that you get them. And we're talking about spirit, okay? And I'm going to refer back now to the textbook in that chapter 3, page 81. Holmes writes the definition of spirit. He says, The definition of spirit is life or intelligence conceived of entirely apart from physical embodiment. It is the vital essence, force, energy, as distinct from matter. He says, probably the definition of God as spirit is more easily understood, more readily accepted than any other term used in describing deity. Okay? How do you understand? And how do you understand your relationship? Sometimes we need to get down with ourselves, about the best way I can put it. Because we grew up with a definition of what God is, or what we believed God was. We've come to New Thought, Science of Mind and Spirit, and they talk about this idea, this concept of God as spirit, as the creative essence, the energy behind all that is, that expresses as life through each of us. And we get excited about that, and we begin to learn about it. We want to put this into practice because this is as Holmes says, it's a philosophy, it's a faith, but it's a way of life, of living. In order to have this as a way of living in life, we have to put it into practice in our life. And the way that we put it into practice in our life is by, oftentimes I say we align ourselves with principle. And there's a lot behind that. But we've got to actually roll it back even a little bit more than just aligning ourselves with principle. We have to understand what our relationship with principle, with oneness, with first cause, with that life, which is God, that life, which is my life. What is our relationship? How do we understand our relationship? And that's the critical aspect oftentimes that kind of trips us up. Because if we still hold on some level, even if it's a belief that we're not aware of, that we hold in the subjective mind, a belief in the old definition of God, whatever that old definition of God may be for you. And as we seek to put into practice these principles that we learn through affirmative treatment, and we don't see the demonstrations that we believe we should see. And boy, there's a whole bunch of things that happen at that point. People begin to, they have doubt. Unfortunately, there's still some people that want to, kind of lay the onus upon someone. Well, you don't believe, right? Or, all this stuff. And, that's just so much static in an atmosphere that we don't need to be a part of. What we need to do is within ourselves, get our relationship with the divine, with God, totally wrapped within ourselves, so that we, not only do we know it on an intellectual level, but we know it on a embodied level, and we know it on a beingness level, if you will. One of the phrases that gets bandied about oftentimes is that phrase of Joel Goldsmith, practicing the presence of God. Well, what does that mean, practicing the presence of God? Does it mean that we go around and everything that we see, we look at, we say, oh, that's God expressing as this, and that's God? I don't think what Goldsmith was talking about. Practicing the presence of God is being in that consciousness of beingness, of internal realization of the divineness that's at the core of our being. And whether you want to call it God within, life within, Christ within, however you want to, names are not really, they're not that important. What's important is the relationship. How do we relate to this thing that we call life? The art of life, I went through that a while back. I can't encourage you enough to go back and pick up Troward's get the combination of the Edinburgh and Doré lectures, Troward's book on Bible, mysteries and Bible meaning. And the reason why it's important that we have an understanding of the teachings that come from the Bible, particularly the New Testament, but there's a great deal of wealth of information that to be found in the Old Testament. But we have to understand We have to understand how and what these teachings are and how they relate to us today, because when they were written, when they were put down back in the day, so to speak, the words that were used were for the audience that were to hear those words. In today's life, in today's world, it's not that we change the words, but we seek to understand the meaning of those words as they relate to modern times. You know, when Jesus says it's done unto you as you believe, it's not just that which you say that you believe, you know, now I lay me down to sleep, or however it is that you've had your beliefs in the past, but belief, as he was talking about it, was a relationship with the divine principle, with God. You know, we have, even in mainstream religions, and I say mainstream, not that we're not on some level, but, you know, we live a relationship with God. That's why, you know, I talk about, you know, first thing in the morning, before you open your eyes, that you give thanks for the gift of the day, that you make that declaration of this day as a gift for you is a day that you are going to live at the highest, greatest degree of livingness that you can bring to the day, and that you are never alone. You know that you're never alone. You make that claim, you make that statement, and you give thanks for the goodness that the life that's at the center of your being is expressing through you in that day. It may be, as you start this, something that feels a little, you know, contrived, but keep at it with the intent and the intention of creating a belief in what you say, because truly it is done unto us as we believe. So that when we talk about, as we speak our words, what does that mean? You know, if we don't understand what our relationship with and where we sit within the creation of all creation, really, in the infiniteness, if we don't understand our place, our position in that, when we say there's one life, that life is God, that life is my life now, what do we mean then? You know, what are we saying? We give voice to the words, but how do we understand that? You know, where's our personal relation? And that's where we have to focus. And one of the things, if you go through these 48 lessons that Dr. Holmes put together years ago, one of the things that, and particularly in the early part, but you'll get it throughout the whole series, is he emphasizes practice. And the reason why practice becomes important is because it is through practice that we make inroads into our own consciousness, our own subjective mind, and we open up doors that heretofore have been closed due to old limiting beliefs. We have to open those doors up. We have to come to our understanding from a position of humility, of awness, of gratitude, and of incredibly wondrous belief. We have to get to that point. When Holmes treated back in the day, he didn't have an expectation in his treatment that maybe he would see a demonstration. And yet, I don't know very many practitioners or possibly even ministers today that have that degree of faith and confidence and belief that when they speak their word, that the demonstration is already, you know, it is created in mind, due to be expressed in this, what we call reality, as a manifestation. Understanding we're not talking about, you know, something that gives us access to that which is not ours. Truly, it gives us access to what is truly ours, and what is ours is incredible for us as an individual. So, Holmes goes on, he says, the nature of being is a unity with three distinct attributes: spirit, soul, and body. What we experience on the physical plane, we call our body. What we look at the universe, we call that the body of the divine. What we understand is our subjective consciousness, or subjective mind, is what Holmes refers to as the soul. And spirit is the consciousness behind all that is. And in our own level, we express that too. Going back to the lesson, he says, we have discovered that some people wait for years before they realize the simplicity of this thing. We trust that you are not such a person and that you have already proved to some degree that you do not wish, will, supplicate, coerce, concentrate anything, that you do not send out thoughts or hold affirmations, or thoughts or influence to people. Your prayers, your thoughts, your beliefs, your affirmations, your treatment are all at the center of your own being. They could be nowhere else. When we speak our word, we're not speaking our word out into an energy. When we speak our word, we're not, again, trying to coerce or force or will or mind meld or anything else. We are to speak our word and in a knowingness that within the core of our being sits the infinite power and presence of all that is, and it is all available to us. And when we put ourselves in that relationship with a full understanding of what that means, what is it that is beyond our ability to speak our word for and not believe in a demonstration? Very simply, it's whatever we believe is beyond our belief. And I'm going to leave you on that. When we come back, we'll pick it up, because that, I think, is where most of us are stuck. See you.
Are you thinking of selling your home? Since 2004, the Souza Group, brokered by eXp Realty, has specialized in premier property listings and sales located in the Clovis Unified and North Fresno markets. The Souza Group will do their best to exceed your expectations. Visit clovisunifiedhomes.com. If your home floods, who will you call? When your house springs a leak, it's time to call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service at 559-213-9430. Clean Master will be there in 60 minutes to start fixing your home. And Clean Master bills your insurance directly, saving you the hassle because you've got enough to worry about. Clean Master also offers carpet and upholstery cleaning, carpet repair, pet odor removal, and more. Remember, Clean Master Emergency Flood Service. 559-213-9430 and visit cleanmasterflood.com. Pour yourself a glass of Crybaby wine available at the market and Sam's Italian Deli. And remember to ask for Crybaby wine at your favorite restaurant.
Forget about the higher good of food, right? You're growing a product that people enjoy really all over the world. I mean, how does that make you feel?
I think about that all the time. I think about the families sitting around a table, enjoying a meal. I just see that what we do brings families together.
I mean, we're blessed. We're in paradise for food.
The Kern family of the Kern Family Farm invites you to eat delicious, nutritious, organic produce available at the Gnarly Carrot, located at 32954 Road 222 in North Fork, California. The Gnarly Carrot is a local, natural, seasonally changing market offering a wide range of products from local Central Valley vendors. Get your caffeine fix, grab a smoothie, and support small businesses. Learn more at kernfamilyfarm.com and visit the Gnarly Carrot today.
Doctor in Sukasa allows you to connect with your doctor when you need a quick treatment. Avoid a trip to a medical clinic or emergency room and connect by video with your doctor from your home, work, or anywhere. Just go to drinsukasa.com on your phone, tablet, or computer. Dr. in Sukasa provides quality care that is convenient, bilingual, and affordable, so you are never left without access to health care. Visit drinsukasa.com today.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
So welcome back to New Thought Talk. Today I'm talking about how we see, understand, experience, and express our relationship with divine, with one, with unity, with spirit. As Holmes was teaching, and he goes into in this lesson, I may touch on it just a little bit before we close the show today. You know, it's really at the core of our being where our relationship with God takes place. And he goes on, he says this in this letter, he says, but what does this mean other than the act of convincing yourself? He says, the only reason that this sometimes seems difficult is that there are so many unconscious denials in every person's life. Sometimes enthusiasm can kind of get in our way. We want to get out in front of ourselves, so to speak, before we get our learning wheels underneath us, if you will, get our foundation solid. Because this concept, this act of convincing ourselves, it takes a lot more time and effort and practice than what most people realize. And this is why Holmes pointed it out, I believe. He says, the only reason that this sometimes seems difficult is that there are so many unconscious denials in every person's life. Just because we've eliminated maybe a handful of denials within our subjective belief system doesn't mean that we're tearing down the road, being able to speak our word here and there and just have God expressing in incredible ways and means in our life experience. It doesn't happen that way. We have to practice. Going back here, he says, I trust that you are not such a person as someone who has waited years, and that you have already proved to some degree that you do not wish, will, supplicate, coerce, or concentrate anything, that you do not send out thoughts or hold thoughts or influence people. Your prayers, your thoughts, your beliefs, your affirmations, your treatments are all at the center of your own being. They could be nowhere else. So it's not about speaking our word loudly in a room or even speaking our word loudly within our own mind, if you will, with our eyes closed. It's about speaking our word in a way that as we speak the word that we speak, that it's spoken with a consciousness of belief in the word itself. Now, we understand, we've been through classes, and we get that when consciousness speaks its word, when God speaks its word, that the law is automatically put in motion. It does, the law of cause and effect, whatever you want to call it. But we're not talking about God. We're talking about us. God doesn't come with the baggage that we come with. What baggage do we come with? Well, we come with all sorts of baggage. A lot of it is kept in that closet of our subjective mind. Baggage that comes from growing up in certain families, growing up in certain locations, growing up in certain, and you can fill in the blank on that. One of the big areas of baggage that we carry is the baggage of self-identification. This is where sometimes I think people get kind of caught up in this idea of, Holmes, he was talking about rugged individualism, and therefore, that doesn't really count today. Well, that's not what he was talking about. Holmes was talking about having a relationship with the divine, understanding that relationship. People get caught up in the idea of personal responsibility as if you are at fault per se, and we're not at fault. We may have created all sorts of chaos in our life because as we think and we understand this, it expresses the law response and always is responding. When we seek to begin to be organized in our thinking and connect that organization to the foundation of our beingness, in other words, the life principle, God itself, that's a pretty big bite, but it's a bite that each of us can take. But as we do that, the most amazing thing to understand is, and we say this often, one, you're never alone. The prayer of protection, and I often close with that by, Robert or Roger Dillitz Freeman? He was a Unity minister, practitioner, and it ends, wherever you are, God is there and all is well. And that's a nice statement to say, but if it doesn't have an embodied meaningness to each of us, then we're still a work in progress, if you will. And there's nothing wrong with being a work in progress. We don't beat ourselves up. But we have to apply ourselves. When do we apply ourselves? Always. That's what Goldsmith was talking about when he said, practice the presence. It's always. It's not certain times of the day. It's not during study time or meditation time or treatment time, but that's always. And always is a habit that takes a lot of time and effort to bring it into conformity with the goal that we claim that we want to set for ourselves. That goal is to be not only in alignment with principle, but to practice the presence, to understand our relationship, to be able to speak our word in consciousness and have an expectation and an intention and expectation of a demonstration, manifestation along the lines of what it is that we were treating for. Holmes didn't teach that only some of us could get there. But in the letter opening up in this class, he says, we have discovered that some people wait for years before they realize the simplicity of this thing. It is. It's very simple. And because it's so simple, oftentimes we miss it. But being simple does not mean that it is necessarily easy. It requires effort on our part. That effort is part of our spiritual journey. When we work and we walk and we work and we walk, we seek to align ourselves with principle. We seek to recognize that when our trend of thinking is, let's say, out of sorts, it's not going to happen overnight. But it can happen for each and every one of us. The greater our understanding of our relationship with the divine, the greater our faith in our understanding and our belief in that understanding, the greater that we, as we get to that understanding, we seek to make sure that in our consciousness, and this is where aligning ourselves with principle becomes important. We have to know that there's a oneness, a God. We have to seek ye first the kingdom, okay? We have to seek that. Once we have started that part of the journey, and we practice every day, all day essentially, we move forward, we bring ourselves, when we talk about bringing ourselves in alignment, that means that we got to let go of some baggage. Besides building up, realizing, and establishing that realization of the truth of our relationship with the divine, we have to put ourselves in a position that if we're going to realize it, if we're going to accept it as our truth, then there are certain things that are not in alignment with it. And, those are things that everybody knows. Limiting beliefs, belief in evil, hatred, whatever, and that's a talk for other days, other shows, but you get my point. Because God, Spirit, only knows what is good. And understanding the relationship between God, good, and evil, that is also something for another day. Probably been done on my show many times over the years. You can find it on YouTube, I'm sure. But the idea is that as our individual and individualized expression of the divine principle as ourself, hey, think about what that means when we say that. When you say, it's not just saying I am God expressed as me, and gee, isn't that neat? It's the realization that I am God, the creative, infinite source of all that is expressing right here, right now, this life that's me. There's one life. That life is God. That life is my life now. Honoring that means that because we do have the power of choice, the power to choose things that are not of an affirming nature. In other words, things that aren't in alignment with principle, with God. Making a choice away from those things and making a choice for those things. Beauty, peace, harmony, love, realizing abundance, and having a knowingness within ourself of the experience that is our desire to see expressed in our life. And to the degree that we can embody that, to that degree we see it demonstrated. Now, the more we hold ourselves accountable to that, the more we will essentially raise up this philosophy that we claim to believe in. The more that we hold our practitioners and ministers accountable to a higher ideal. Because some people, they're very good at teaching, but they're kind of like that old parable of, or that saying of Jesus, when the blind lead the blind, they fall off the cliff. It's not about being able to experience and express the words in a great, creative, and constructive way. You have to be able to express the beingness behind the words, the energy that's there, the truth, in a way that the audience or the individual client patient is open to that, accepting of that. Now, I'm not talking necessarily about when a practitioner does a treatment. That's something different. I'm talking about when we're teaching people. If they don't believe what we're teaching, we're only saying words. We have to create that atmosphere that belief will grow in. And that atmosphere is something that, all right, we hold our ministers accountable. We hold our practitioner accountable. But we also need to hold ourselves accountable for. We're going to take our last break, and I'll see you when we come back.
Hi everyone, I am Sparkle Sujin with the Everything Sparkle Show. Tune in every Thursday live at 4 p.m. You will see people that are motivational, inspirational, inspiring, and of course, entertaining. We have a great time. We learn things about how big celebrities are inspiring big names here in Fresno. Hugh Hefner is the reason we have Fresno Magazine, and Gnarly Charlie got his start because Johnny Carson told him to. So, tune in, you'll learn something new, and have a good time.
Visit the beautiful city of Exeter and visit exeterchamber.com. The Chamber's mission is to promote, support, and enable Exeter to prosper, creating a strong local economy, promoting community, and providing networking opportunities. Follow the Chamber on Facebook and Twitter, or give the Chamber a call at 559-592-2919.
Call Peachy's Catering for all your special occasions. Available to cook any variety of foods and desserts that will leave your taste buds wanting more. Call 559-558-2682 and follow Peachy's on Instagram and Facebook.
Is everything in life draining you? Come to Stretch 360. Our professional staff can offer you many options for relaxation like deep tissue or hot stone massages, infrared medical grade sauna. Once you leave us, you'll look and feel like $1,000,000. Stretch 360. Relaxation is only a stretch away.
Call Nicole Hamilton McManus at 559-917-3040 to buy this perfect, romantic, rustic ranch with a 2-home setup. Located only 12 miles from the entrance to Kings Canyon and Sequoia National Parks. This beautifully maintained property boasts of amenities and custom features. The main home is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,670 square feet. The guest home is 2 bedrooms, 1 bath with 1,163 square feet. Also features a 75-foot lap pool, a cabana, a beautiful garden, and 2 small nearby ponds. Call Nicole Hamilton McManus at 559-917-3040. The Art of Becoming Who We Are in Christ by Jolene Kennedy is a book about the process of maturity as we find our true identity, since God's promises must be received, embraced, and activated within us. Get your copy today and check out JoleneKennedy.com. Fleet Feet Fresno is more than just a running and sportswear store. Fleet Feet Sports' mission is to provide runners and other active Fresnans with gear that fits their individual needs, training that helps them reach their fitness goals, and races that satisfy their competitive spirit. Get to know Fleet Feet Fresno today.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. So, our relationship with the divine. It's not enough for us to say that we believe. It's got to be a whole lot more than that. Holmes, in this lesson, he says, throughout the period of study based on these lessons, and in your daily experience from now on, believe that you can demonstrate. He says, believe it. He says, we need to prove the principle. It is easy to believe in an underlying power or principle in the universe which governs all things and is all-powerful. But for ourselves, it is not enough. To confess that God is the only power there is, it's just not enough. We got to do something more. He says, in our personal experience, at least, we must prove the supremacy of good, with a capital G, over apparent evil. In other words, God over anything other than what is in alignment with God. He says we must prove that the God principle is in us and so is available to us. We must recognize our unity with the divine principle of being. That's a big and a tall order, but each of us has everything that we could possibly need to fill that order within ourselves. But it requires that we go there. And going there oftentimes, for some, it's very simple, and for others, it's It's more difficult. One of the things that makes, I can't encourage you enough to make that Sunday trek to your New Thought Center, whatever it is, to take classes, to be with like-minded people, to associate with like-minded people. And it's not about criticizing someone that's struggling or that maybe says, well, it only works for, it's great for parking spots, right? You know, whatever. It's great for incredible, immense things in life. There are practitioners that have treated the untreatable and seen a demonstration. But we have a great deal throughout our own family, our own population, of people that they're involved with it feels good, we need to grow, we need to move beyond, we need to, well, it's not about necessarily religious science fundamentalism. It's about personal, fundamental, creating a foundation for ourselves that we can move beyond. And it's an amazing thing. When that foundation is created and then built upon, oftentimes the doubts, the questionings, the need for something beyond will tend to fall away. But that's a personal experience for each of us. As a practitioner, I believe that that's where we got to be. As a practicer in my life, as a living the philosophy to the highest and best of my ability, which sometimes is not as high or as best as I'd like it to be, but at least I put in the effort 24/7. I know that we can change the world. I know that there's so much that's going on in the world today that I believe that New Thought, whether you want to address it through science of mind and spirit or one of the other New Thought philosophies, we're all pretty much in the same boat. We teach pretty much the same thing. We have pretty much the same outlook in life and pretty much the same understanding. When we get there, when we're living it, when we're embodying it individually, and as we do that, not only do we change ourself, our life experience, our life expression, but we change the world in its totality. Holmes says, if we look at love long enough, we shall become lovely. It's not enough to merely declare that God is love. This was true before we made the declaration. Whatever statements we may make about the divine being in a treatment, we must unify with. Not just speak the words, but actually embody within ourselves, if you will. It says we must unify. And in thought, in inwardly, in imagination, or the treatment will not be complete and effective. We have to unify. It has to become that within us, not just that which I speak my word, not just that which I say I believe, but we must unify with it. We must embody it within ourselves, within our imagination. He says, if you say there's only one life, and that life is the life of God, you have made an abstract statement about a universal principle. When you add, that life is my life now, you have connected this principle with your own experience. You have unified with it. Be sure to do this every day. To do it every day is not just, it's not just, those aren't just words of advice. Those are, if you will, road signs or map directions to a destination that exists for each of us, most of the time beyond our wildest imagination. Because if it wasn't beyond our wildest imagination, we'd already be there. It's one of those things. But it is something that's available to each and every one of us. And we can do that. And you can do that. One of the reasons why I spend time talking into the camera, sharing things that are sometimes on my heart, sometimes answering questions that come to me, sometimes interviewing people that are people within the New Thought family community, is to help you maybe invigorate yourself, stimulate yourself, excite yourself, help point you in a direction. I want you to be the all that you can be. And as a living, breathing expression, life of God, universal principle itself, there's a whole lot of you that I'd hedge a bet that you haven't had the opportunity to express, to experience, and to share with the world. And that's our purpose as we do that. It's an amazing thing. That's it for today. We're going to wrap it up. See you next week. It's been a great time. I hope you've enjoyed it today. I hope you've gotten some stuff you can learn. And like I say most times as you go through the week, know that the light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. For truly, wherever you are, and truly, that is so. God is there. And if God is there, if you understand that, no matter where you're at, all is well. You have a bigger God, a bigger partner, and a bigger solution to whatever problem life can bring. See you next week.